welcome to the fourth installation of the Mind Over Matters podcast. We're your hosts, Stephanie
and Tori.
Today we'll be talking about motivation, but first of all, we'll bring back an old friend, 14,000 things to be happy about. Can you do me a favour and pick a number between 1 and 612?
500.
Okay, that's a good one. I hope. I think Josh will be happy about this one. That we're bringing the book back. So, The Complete Works of Winston Churchill doesn't exactly make me happy. Taking yourself to lunch, that's a nice one, but have you ever, taken yourself out and tried to eat by yourself in, a public place?
I'll be too awkward for that now.
I remember I met a friend, and we went to Newcastle, and we were sat there with our, cocktails, and we saw this dude, and he'd, ordered a meal for himself, and it was, a full-on roast with, Yorkshires and a drink. And, we didn't know if he was going to wait for someone or not, and then we sat there eating, while he was eating, and we looked at each other and we were like, oh my god, the guts this person has, good job. And then I realised that's something that, most people should be able to do. And then since then I decided to try, so I've done it before, and it was less scary than I thought. But yeah, that's one to think about. Well, that's that one. So we did it. You're welcome. So can you do me a favour, please, Tori? What's the definition of motivation?
Motivation is the word derived from the word motive, which means needs, desires, or drives within the individuals. It is the process of stimulating people to actions to accomplish goals.
And why do you think motivation is so important?
Well, without motivation, we wouldn't really be able to do what we want to do or say need to do. Motivation's the way of getting towards and completing goals.
Yeah. And it's important to touch on there's more than one type of motivation. So there's external factors, extrinsic motivation, and internal factors. So that would be intrinsic motivation. So extrinsic would be kind of motivation that would get you your reward. So for example, motivation to work would be income and a place to live, paying your bills. But also you don't want to get fired, so that motivates you to do your work. Factors like that. And then there's intrinsic motivation, which would be to make you feel good. So you might want to help other people because it makes you feel good, or if you want to get fit and healthy, it's to feel better, kind of thing. Yeah, without motivation, you're lost.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to kind of become motivated if you've lost that motivation. So we've looked up here different ways to help you with motivation. So that could be setting clear targets for yourself, taking the time to realise why you want to do the things, what those outcomes you want to be. And if you surround yourself with people that are also motivated, instead of people that might discourage you from those things, that really helps. For example, I go to the gym. I'm not a gym buff, I'm not particularly strong, and I'm not particularly fit and healthy yet. But I find it so much easier to go if someone else is with me to push me, or to get me to get those extra reps and things like that. So finding people that also have the same target or want to help encourage you is really important and really helpful.
I suppose if you're doing it by yourself, you're not going to almost want to push yourself, but if you have someone else that's going to be you do what you can do for it, I think it really helps.
I think having that willpower yourself is really incredible. Yeah. And that's something that I definitely struggle with, so it helps me to surround myself with like-minded people that,
Yeah.
But I think it's important as well. We've got a little paragraph here about how mental health affects motivation. How would you say your mental health has affected your motivation? For example, you've mentioned university and stuff before.
I think mental health has a big impact on motivation. Especially when, I've experienced it where I've had really low times. And you just don't want to do anything, do you? Even if you know deep down you do, your mental health is kind of just you don't have the energy, you just want to just do nothing, really, don't you?
Yeah. I think it's hard as well if you're doing... if you're trying to do something, sometimes you'll see, what's the point of doing that? I think that phrase in particular, what's the point? Stuck in my mind for such a long time that I didn't do anything. at all. Like, I barely left the house. I didn't, socialise, didn't work, didn't, And I think it's hard to find that motivation, but at the end of the day, when you're struggling with those things and long-term goals, it's important to figure out what's going wrong in your life and what kind of things you can change. Not even big changes, just what little things can I do that will help make a difference and hopefully bring me out of this kind of depression, or even anxiety. So if you want to go to the shop for something, but you're too anxious to go, I know especially my ex as well, struggled going to the shop and would have panic attacks sometimes. So it's like, what is the thing you want? Okay, you want to go buy your shopping or whatever. Set that target and then work your way towards it. And it's kind of the outcome that's the important factor. That's where the motivation comes from. Yeah.
Like, in a way, I can sort of relate, like you're saying, because I had my experience. Like, remember I talked to you about the time I was at hospital. Like, basically, it sort of started off where I was wanting to get to the shop and like get something, and then I just ran because it was near closing time, and then when I got to the till, like all of a sudden I just passed out.
Yeah.
And it was really like difficult because after it happened, I ended up in hospital, and after that experience, it made it really hard for me going back to the shop because it just reminded me of what happened. Even though I knew, it's not like I'm gonna have the same experience, but it kind of sticks with you.
Yeah, definitely.
And just kind of like almost brings you back and all. And it's just, for me, I think, like, just to get over that is just about like going in, even if it was only for a short time, and then going out again. Like, nothing. Like, it would be bad if I just pushed myself, but just like build it up to get back where I wanted to.
Yeah, you don't want to throw yourself in at the deep end. You want to like take little steps. What helped you to kind of go back to the shop and stuff again?
I think I just had to tell myself that like it was in the past, and that like I couldn't do anything about it, and it was kind of like I think even I remember when I went to the shop, I think I just bought a bag, not like a shopping bag. I just bought a bag, and that was about it. And just like that, even that first time, like it felt really good because it's like, right, I can do this even if I wasn't feeling 100%. That's something I just overcame.
It's really important to recognise that because for some people, going into the shop and buying a bag isn't like a big deal. But that's why you should recognise you're not other people, and that for you that's a big step.
Yeah.
And recognising those small things can get you so much further than, I'm still not this, I'm still not that.
Yeah.
Because that's where you start losing the motivation. You start thinking, well, it's not good enough, it's not this, it's not that. But if you recognise those things and recognise the difference it's made, it's like a huge thing. So good job for that. And it's not meant to be patronising, because I've been in the same position.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many things that I just couldn't do, and then you build it up, and it's a huge thing. So good job. I think coming back to mental health and motivation, like for me, university. So mine was kind of a similar thing. Like, I would get anxiety about going in, and it was more depression for me. There was a bit of anxiety there, but it was more depression. Like, I didn't go to lectures. And then because I'd missed a lot of lectures, I thought there's no point going in. I'm not going to catch up. And then I ended up dropping out of university. So I think finding the motivation to do things like that, it's difficult. I think reaching out for people if you're lacking the motivation or if you're worried about outcomes. Again, surrounding yourself with people.
Oh, definitely.
But
I suppose that is the thing with university. Like, for me, that's when it was brought to light about mental health problems. Like, before I started university, like I kind of had a feeling I had depression. Like, I kind of like looked into it a bit more. But I think with university, I think anyone can really say being to university definitely brings mental health issues.
Yeah.
Because it is a whole different experience and all.
Especially because a lot of people move into halls or whatever. I know, not for me personally, but I know for a lot of people where they've been used to having a family unit or their friendship group that they're like used to, and then moving into a different town, surrounding yourself with new people, you can feel kind of lost.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easier if you make those connections, but sometimes it's difficult to do that. So trying to reach out to people can be hard, especially when people seem so far away.
Yeah. Like, is there any has there any been times where you've been lacking motivation and managed to get yourself out of that?
I think again, which we talked about on the last episode, the last installment, when I talked about being out of work and then trying to motivate myself to find work, it was because I wanted my own money. I was bored and depressed at home, like where I was living. I wanted something to fill my time. I wanted my own income. So I thought about all those things and all those reasons, and that's kind of what got me going. Sometimes with motivation, though, it's hard to even muster up a little bit. I've heard that if, like, in doing this research, I've heard that if you start something, even if you're not motivated to do it, if you just start it, then if you do that thing, you'll get that serotonin, you'll get that hit, and it'll motivate you more. So even if you're not motivated whatsoever, like even if you just do it for the sake of doing it, for doing something, it can make you feel good, like chemically, scientifically, it can make you feel good.
Love that.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So another statement we've got here is, through recovery, motivation should return, although it may take longer for some people. Everyone is different. Again, yeah, it is hard to find motivation sometimes, especially when you're on that low depression kind of cycle, in the low aspect of it. It's hard, again, to find any of that motivation, but it does come back. It's not... Everyone says, oh, it gets better, or oh, things will change, and it sounds like such a lie at the time, but it's true. It's kind of the way the world is. Things do change, and if you notice things you want to change, try and do those little things to make that change.
Like, I don't even say, like, sometimes it's even hard to explain the feeling of, like, being unmotivated. Like, for me, I can relate. Sometimes you know yourself you want to, but you just can't.
Yeah.
You're kind of just stuck in that pit where you try to do it, but at the same time, you know, sometimes it just takes a bit longer than expected. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with that.
I think as well, if you're in a routine of doing something and it's something you started maybe a long time ago and you forget why you're doing something, and maybe you've started losing the motivation for it, realise why you started doing it in the first place. Again, recognise changes and things that have made a difference, and kind of figure out what you want that end goal to be. But if you say art, for example, if you're passionate about art and you've been doing it for years, then you start losing the motivation. No one's saying you can't stop and try something new for a change. Just even to test the waters for a new hobby, even if it's still art related or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I absolutely hate. Like, especially when you're like not motivated, is kind of losing interest in the things you love. But like I've like where I've had it, where it's gone away, but it does come back. Like sometimes I think when you're just growing up, it's natural to just like lose interest in the things you used to like. You know, just, I suppose that's part of growing up and all. You get new interests, new hobbies, whatever. But like it's definitely hard. Like I know you probably be able to relate that it's hard when you love something, but then all of a sudden it's like you don't really care about it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of depression, at least for me and like people that I've spoken to about it. Losing complete interest in anything and anyone, not wanting to do anything, not caring anymore. But again, there are places to reach out, and reaching out to people, even if you don't have kind of a social circle, reaching out to your GP and mentioning that, look, I've lost this motivation, and they can help you. I mean, it could be anything to do with, like, sometimes it's a chemical imbalance, sometimes you're deficient in certain nutrients, like vitamin D. I think it is vitamin D you get from the sunlight, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so if you lack vitamin D, which the NHS recommends, like every adult should take, like supplements for, it can make you tired and like make you unmotivated because you're tired. And it's like there's so many different reasons you may be unmotivated, and it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you know, there's so many different factors. So yeah, definitely reaching out and talking to someone about it. But what kind of things are you motivated to do at the moment?
I think I'm motivated to like work. Like that's definitely a big factor. You know, obviously like work, get money, pay bills, etc. Like definitely work. And I think one of the things that really I'm motivated to do is work on myself.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm continually wanting to do, work on myself. Like be the best I can and just feel good in myself really.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing to do. we've talked about social media a lot as well in previous episodes of this podcast. I think like following other people that are trying to do those things, or following positive influencers, or just even friends that post like uplifting posts and
I think that can really help. I suppose that in a way, like seeing other people like do that can motivate you. Just like if they can do it, like why can't I?
Yeah, for me especially like body body acceptance posts, or like people that talk about trauma and things like that have helped me kind of understand myself and motivate me more to learn more about what's going on and continue going to therapy and things like that. But yeah, surrounding yourself with those people and yeah. But I think working on yourself is a good one because there's always something you want to do, and there's you're never gonna get to a point where you're perfect.
No.
Because humans aren't. That's the whole point. But I think working on yourself to be a good person, like what better motivation is that? Can't get any nicer than that, Tori. But yeah, I think at the moment motivation is kind of when you've got so much on. It's hard to kind of prioritize. So I'm motivated to work hard. I enjoy work. I enjoy the work I do. Again, helping other people, so I get to pay my bills, but I also get to help other people. So for me, a job like this is like perfect. So not only have we got the podcast, we've got like the actual admin aspect of it, which I, as I've mentioned like so many times, I thoroughly enjoy. Something I'm really passionate about. And then motivated to like look after myself. I've started like doing more of my skin routine again, just because I like having a routine. It looks terrible right now because I had yellow lighting and I ran out of the good foundation at home, so I had to use a different colour. It's fine though. I'm not bothered. But I think that sort of thing, or like, here's a massive one for me. So I got my braces put on when I was like 15, and I'm 23 now. And I was supposed to have them on for like 2 years maximum.
Oh.
But because I was in care and I moved around a lot, they kind of I moved from like one side of the country to another and things like that. Like I've lived so many different places. I never kept up with it. And so I would get huge anxiety. I'd have nightmares about my teeth falling out and like constantly, or like if I smiled, like I wouldn't, or like if I laughed, I would put my hand up. I'm like learning to not do that now, especially like recording these things. If someone's like trying to lip read, like can you imagine if I had my hand over my mouth while trying to talk? It's so bad. So getting the motivation, it was kind of like, look, I've had them on for so long, I just want them sorted and then off. I had panic attacks phoning orthodontists. I rang them in our area first, like around here. And they said because I was with a different practice before, I should go back to the original. So I contacted them. And they still had like my old information, so I had to update it. But I literally like had a panic attack on the phone and cried and had to explain the situation. Because I had an emergency appointment once where the wire had broken, but it had been years between being seen. And I went to the appointment and they said, so why? They were really quite rude to me. They're like, oh, so why haven't you been? And I had to like explain, and I cried. But it was finding motivation. Like I've been going on with my braces for so long now. I want them off. I want it sorted. So I just had to bite the bullet, and like it's something that was in the back of my mind for like over a year, like for years actually. And then actually getting the courage to ring and having so many panic attacks. And the worst thing is like I had to call multiple places. It wasn't one simple call. I hate making calls as it is. But yeah, and then now I've got an appointment and I'm getting sorted, and I've been seen once. I'll be seen again next month. So yeah. So it's a big deal. And it sounds like it's not like, oh, so you can't just make a phone call. It's a bigger.
No.
Like for me personally, it's linked to trauma. It's linked to all those moving. It had my old address from people that weren't very nice to me. My emergency contact was someone that like I've had panic attacks about accidentally running into, that sort of thing. So yeah, and then I realised how much I wanted it, and that I'm just gonna keep pushing it back. And if I don't do it,
Yeah.
So
I suppose sometimes we have to deal with these things, even if it causes anxiety and stress. But in the long run, it's worth it.
Definitely.
For you, not to get your braces off eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But But that'll be getting sorted. I think it's hard as well. But again, having that support is, even though it was me that made the phone call, I push myself to do it. It doesn't matter. I think with motivation as well, if I get told that I need to do something, I'm like, right, I don't want to do it now. Now that I've been told, like, I know I need to do it, just stop, please, because it feels like nagging sometimes, depending on what it is. I think being able to set your own pace, because if you do listen to the people, sometimes, as we were saying before, you might be thrown into the deep end. You might not be able to go into the shop with a big trolley and a full basket and stay in there for ages, deal with crowds, that sort of thing. So setting your own goals and
Just do what feels right for you, really. You know,
exactly.
just because someone can do something, I don't know, in a short amount of time, like going to the shop, maybe. You know, it's alright if they can do that, but if you can't do it as like what they can do, that's fine. You know.
I think we talk about this every episode. We always have. You are your own person. You are not these other people. There's no point comparing yourselves to people that have this on paper or can do this or can do that. Yes, have goals for yourself. Yes, try and motivate yourself. But do it on your own terms, in your own time. Set your own goals, even if everyone keeps telling you to do one path, but you want to do something else. If that's better for you, it's your life. It doesn't matter how many people think you should be a doctor or whatever. If you would rather be an artist, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if that's where your passion is.
I suppose you'll never be happy if you follow a path that you didn't write yourself, kind of thing. Like, you know, our parents are always, like, some people will just picture you, someone else, but if that isn't what makes you happy, then don't do it, you know.
I think in the long run as well, you'll start, even if you go to university for, I think it's like 6 years or however long, it's like 4 years and then another 2 years, and then depending on like what path to be a doctor. You can spend so many years, but imagine you're eventually a doctor. You'll always wonder, what if I wanted,
Exactly.
like, this is what I actually wanted to do. You might feel better off having gone down the path that you've now chosen, but there might always be a what if, or if you start to lose the motivation. And that's another thing. No matter where you're at in life, you can always change. You can always, like, you can be a doctor for however many years and then decide, look, I actually wanted to be an artist when I was younger. Maybe I'll try that.
I suppose, like we touched on this like last time, where it's like it's never too late. You know, when we talked about KFC creator, you know, he started his business, was it like 65 or something?
Yeah.
When he retired, you know. I know, like, so many people might go down the route maybe because it might look good or, you know, pay well, but, you know, like, it's important just to follow your own path. And even if, say, you don't start it later on in life, that's also fine, you know.
Definitely.
I think there is a quote I really like. It's something like, do whatever makes you happy. Like I do love quotes, like the wee quotes and all you just get. Themselves, quotes are very motivating yourself.
I used to have a quote in my bedroom on a little wooden plaque, and it said, "If you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours." Yeah.
Like, I remember it was when I was at school. I created this here. It was kind of like a poster of all the things I wanted to, like, things that motivated me. So going to uni. So I had like the Teesside logo, like uni. And then there was, I think it was like the flag of Kenya, because I went to like volunteer Kenya for a month. So I just I had that there just like because I had to fundraise like £3,000 odd to go to Kenya. So and I think I had other wee coats and all. Just motivate me just to get all those things sort of.
That's such a good tip to have that visualization board of what you want and kind of a reminder every day that when you look at it, you can be like, okay, this is what I want to do and this is where.
I think
that's such a good thing.
I think it definitely helps because, like, for me, I would write things down, but I think it's really good. Like, just like, you know, like the idea of doing something we just see every day. Just like say you're working and you want to go for like a promotion. I suppose you could even just put on like what you need to do to get there. I think that'd be a great thing.
Definitely.
Visualizing. Like, I know there's all these different types of learners, and maybe visualization might not be the best, but I don't know, like, what other things would be good.
I'm trying to think. So you have like I know people make bullet journals as well. I have a blank bullet journal. I've not started. I don't want to ruin the paper. I'm very much that person. I have so many like blank scrapbooks and things that I just too scared to touch. But I'm gonna do it because I might as well. But I think with things like bullet journals, having like a tracker, you can like track your sleep and things like that. Or if you're motivated to, I've been really tired. I've checked everything. Everything's fine. I'm just not sleeping well. If you like start tracking things, you can see the difference it makes. And then having that aspect where you can see the difference can help give you more motivation and notice that changes are happening. I don't know what else you could do though. I suppose like if you're more of a listener, you could listen to motivational podcasts. I'm not going to plug this one because if you're listening to us now, you already know about it. But yeah, you could listen to like motivational podcasts like on your way to work or on your way to school or like if you're traveling just in general. That'd be good. I suppose reading different blogs, motivation books, self-help guides.
Like I suppose books. Definitely like. I suppose well we have that book there for some things to do. To be happy about. There we go. I was about to say to be something like that.
I'm wondering, there was a book before that we were, and it was a turtle coming out of his shell. I just remember the cover. But having different books around and just different material that you can, those resources that are so easy to get a hold of, even if you don't have the money to buy books, you can borrow them off people or the local library, or there's so many different things you can find on the internet, or YouTube videos, or again, like audiobooks or podcasts, things like that.
Like remember, I've got like those self-help books. I think it's called like How to Get Your Shit Together.
Did it help?
I read it.
Have you not been motivated enough to do that?
I think sometimes I start these things and then I'm always like, I'll get back to it, and then it's like I haven't really like gone through it.
It's hard to sometimes if you start something, it's hard to finish it. Especially if you're deciding, like, I'm actually getting on track now. I've kind of got my shit together a little bit. Maybe I don't need to.
I think I'm one of those people, unless I get really into the book at the start, sometimes I struggle to read the whole thing.
I've got, like, I want to say, like, 4 books that are half read. Sometimes I used to, like, bring 2 with me and, like, I'd flick between them. Like, I'd read a couple of chapters that one and then I'd be like, okay, I'm bored of this genre. I'll go into this genre now. But no, I definitely relate on that level.
But to be fair, I did get the book when I was in the middle of doing my degree, so...
Oh, well, there you go. Now you've got time.
I've got time to do it.
I think in a couple of... It may be the next one, it may be the one after. We're going to bring in one of the people that attend our groups, Ross. And he's wanting to speak about our service and kind of... In particular, so we've touched on these certain subjects. We've not spoken so much about Let's Connect, formerly known as Hartlepool and Eastern Mind, and what we actually do and what support we can offer people. There are tons of groups on and things, so we're going to bring in Ross and maybe a few other people at different times to talk about our service, and hopefully if you're interested in joining, you can, But yeah, and I think that's everything. If you have any questions, queries or concerns, you can phone us on 01429 269 303 or send us an email at mindovermatters@hedm.co.uk. Thank you.
Really impressed. Remember that number now?
Yeah, I did it. Okay, bye.
Bye.
I don't know what else to talk about. Motivation.